The first package that we are going to pull in is php.env. This is an incredibly important and popular package within PHP, and I'm going to explain to you why before we start to pull this into our project. Now let's imagine that we are opening up some kind of database connection inside of our code. Now of course what you're probably going to do is go and create a new, you're going to say something like new PDO for example, and you're going to go ahead and start passing in all of your configuration inside of here. Now that's absolutely fine if you're working on a really small project on your own, but it becomes a problem if you are exposing configuration inside of your application within your code. That means that if your code is ever seen by anyone, of course they're going to see all your connection credentials, and it's not a good idea. So there's a couple of reasons why we use a package like .env, and this is to load configuration from environment variables, which is a lot more secure. They're not based within your code, they're based on your server. Now, the other reason for this is maintainability. It means that all of your configuration is going to be in one place. We are going to build out a configuration class a little bit later, which is going to use this package to kind of pull in environment variables and set them into a base config. But trust me, this is such a good idea to do and is often overlooked when you're starting up a project. So let's go and install this. We'll take a look at the benefits as we go along. Let's come down here. I'll leave a link to this in the course links for you. Let's go ahead and grab the package name, which is vlucas/php.env. And I'm currently opened up a new tab here just so I don't have to keep closing the server off. Let's do a composer install on this package and just wait for this to finish. And of course we need to do a composer require, not a composer install. How many times have I done that and I've still forgotten? Okay, so this is downloaded and we can now start to use it inside of our project. Now we'll start off by looking at where we, during development, set these environment configuration variables. This is inside of a .env file, like so. This might look a little bit strange, but essentially what we're providing here are environment variables but within a file, so we don't have to set these up during development. So for example, let's say that we wanted to set what our app name was. Let's call this auth. You can of course give it a different name, but that is now an environment variable that is going to be set into the environment with the key of app name and the value of auth, and we'll be adding all of our configuration to here, like our database settings and anything else that we need. So now that we have a kind of central place for all of our configuration, how do we go ahead and actually use these? Well, within PHP, once you set an environment variable, you can use the getenv function to pull this out. And this is the securest way to do things because you're not basically placing your configuration inside of your code directly. So we need to use this package that we've just pulled down to load in our environment variables, or push from env into our environment variables, and then we can read these back out. So at the moment, if we were to do a var dump and do this on getenv, which is a native PHP function, app name, of course we're not going to see anything. So let's just go over to the browser and open this up. And of course we don't see anything, we just see a false value come back because this can't be found. Now, to actually load in to the environment from that .env file, we basically go ahead and create a new .env instance from that package. So let's go ahead and create this new .env, and this has its own namespace because it's pulled in as a package. We then pass in the base path, so at this point we're just going to go ahead and include dir in here, and then we want to load. Now what that's done is it's automatically going to have read from .env and placed them values in the environment variables. So if we just go ahead and give our page a refresh here, this doesn't actually look like it's worked at the moment because we're looking inside of Bootstrap. So of course what we need to do for this, we need to go back a directory. So let's go ahead and do that. And that should be just about it. So let's go ahead and make sure we escape that, give that a refresh, and sure enough we see the value auth. So we can now read from environment variables. Now once you go live and put this onto a server, if you were going to do that, your environment variables, you could technically include .env, but really what you want to do is place these inside of environment variables on your server. This can be a little bit complicated, so we won't worry about that for now. We might talk about that a little bit later. Now, when you are on a server and it doesn't include a .env file, which you shouldn't, because of course then anyone has access to your environment variables if they read this file, what we're going to do is delete this file and just take a look at what happens. Give that a refresh and you can see that we get an error. So a typical kind of pattern when you're using this package is to just wrap this in a try catch block like so, and we'll go ahead and catch an exception in here. Now the exception that we want to catch is invalid path exception, the same one that we just saw in here. So we can actually grab the namespace for this and pop that in there. and we can give that a name, and in here we do absolutely nothing. So if we can't find an environment variable, we just don't read from it, but we can't then of course see the configuration that we've set. So let's bring back this .env file. We'll worry about this a little bit later if you wanted to go live. So let's go ahead and save this in here, and let's go ahead and give our app name in there once again, and this should now be working. So we can tuck all of our configuration away now into one file. We can give the benefit of a config loader a little bit later, which will read from our environment. But for now, this is the most convenient way to store configuration. And it's also the safest way as well, because you're not littering your code with potentially secure credentials like database connection details and public and private keys. So let's go over to the next part and look at our container, which is going to start to bring our entire system together. This is a really important concept, so a really important step when you're building out your own mini framework.